Morning.
Morning.
I ran for governor 4 years ago because I believed that I had ideas, skills, and experience that could help move Maine forward. Ours was a positive, issues-based campaign where we treated Maine voters like adults. Despite all the polls and pundits and partisan naysayers, we almost made it. 4 years later, after more continuing economic decline and bitterly divisive politics in Augusta, I saw another chance to make a difference, and I've tried as before to run a positive campaign and to approach Maine voters as adult citizens in a free and open democracy. When I conceded to Paul LePage on the morning after the 2010 election, I said that I believed, and I quote, that we had stuck a dagger in the heart of negative campaigning in the state of Maine. I believed that we had beaten back the politics of fear. I was wrong. Indeed, the politics of fear and negative ads have returned with a vengeance beyond my imagining. This 2014 campaign is locked in the grip of fear. Fear that one of my opponents will be reelected, or fear that the other will take his place. These fears have been fueled and amplified by more than $10 million in attack ads and mailings, financed by special interest PACs that don't give a damn about Maine's future, but care only whether the winner of this election has a D or an R after his name. I've talked about my vision for Maine's future and my plans and strategies for rebuilding our economy and creating jobs. I've stressed the importance of having a governor with the requisite skills and experience, one who is unbought and unbossed, one who will owe no obligation to anyone other than the people of Maine. And I have sought to instill courage and to restore confidence in ourselves and in our future. I am confident and hopeful, but I'm also a realist. While I have been gratified by the number of voters who have switched their allegiances to me, particularly after the debates, and by the passionate support of voters whom I've met in recent days from all over Maine, I must also acknowledge the gripping fear that's driving many voters, including many who wish that I would become governor, instead to back one of my opponents with a strategic vote against the other. I truly believe in democracy and in the ultimate authority of voters to vote for whomever they want for whatever reason. And I don't think that any voter, whether a supporter of mine or not, now needs or ever has needed my permission or my blessing to vote for one of my opponents. Nonetheless, I want to reiterate this morning the simple statement that I made in Yarmouth many months ago. Anyone who has supported me, but who now worries that I cannot win and is thereby compelled by their fears or by their conscience to vote instead for Mr. LePage or Mr. Michaud, should do so. For those voters who have been seized with anxiety and who don't want fear to become an indelible and permanent hallmark of politics in Maine, I have one single request. Regardless of whether you vote for me or someone else, please join me in supporting the proposed Citizens Initiative on ranked choice voting and sign a petition at the polls on November 4 to bring ranked choice voting to a vote of the people in a referendum. I long ago proposed that we reform our electoral process, and I directly proposed to my opponents many months ago that Maine adopt in time for this campaign ranked choice voting. Whatever the outcome of this race, the RCV Initiative campaign will have my wholehearted support as a governor or as a citizen. RCV will put the brakes on negative campaigning and ensure that future governors lead and govern with the support of a majority of Maine voters without ignoring the will of those who may have supported other candidates. As we enter the closing days of this campaign, I ask my supporters simply to vote their consciences. Some will vote for Mike Michaud. Some will vote for Paul LePage, and some will stick with me. I am not standing down, and neither should those voters whose consciences compel them to cast a vote for me, for their hopes and not their fears, as they share my optimism for a rewarding election day. I'm proud and grateful to have their support. These voters know that the voting booth remains a place to rebel against convention and to reclaim independence, to defy political partisanship, to demand change, and to send a message that the old ways aren't working. These voters want and deserve a better choice, a different choice in this election. They should be able to vote for a candidate who is hostage to no ideology, left or right, one who is unbought and unbossed by special interests. These voters want the policies and ideas that we have advanced to be embraced by a wider circle over time, and they want an independent political movement to gather strength here and beyond Maine's borders. So I say to Maine voters, if you want to support my idea to cut property taxes, reform revenue sharing, and invest in education with the knowledge of how we will pay for it, vote for me. If you want the two parties to stop fighting and to start solving Maine's problems, vote for me. If you're sick and tired of hedge fund billionaires buying your elections and want to get money out of politics, vote for me. I've always told voters that I won't sugarcoat anything, and I'm not going to start now. We have a steep hill to climb in the next few days. I am a realist about my chances, but I'll be damned if I will kowtow to party politics and allow a bunch of polls to drown out the voices of thousands of Maine people who believe that standing for principles, ideals, and ideas makes you an American and not a spoiler. Campaigning for public office in this great state is a privilege, and I am deeply grateful to the people of Maine for twice allowing me this opportunity. I got into this race because I believe that Mainers deserve a choice beyond what is not working now and what didn't work before. I still do, and I'm going to continue to offer that choice for the next 6 days. I trust Maine voters to do what they think is right. Like me, they love this state, and I'm confident that their independent nature and common sense will lead them to make the right choices for themselves and collectively for the state of Maine. I'd be happy to take the questions.
Eliot, you say you're a realist. Do you feel you can't win at this point?
No, I don't feel I can win. I think the odds are long. I said that. I'm probably running third, likely running third. But people who have been running third in exactly the position I'm in today have won elections before, and it could happen again. As I said, I trust the voters of the state of Maine.
Eliot, if you could take yourself out of the election, would you pick one of these two guys, and which one would you pick? I mean,
No.
Just imagine for a minute you're not in it. Who do you pick?
The reason I'm still in it, Scott, is that I don't want to leave myself that choice, and I don't want to leave that choice to the voters of the state of Maine.
Why did you make this statement today?
Because a lot of people have been asking a lot of questions of me, and I thought it was time to answer, and I have.
You done any internal polling, Eliot? Is it in line with some of the public polls?
I think, you know, Chris, I think all the polls are in line with each other, and that doesn't change my view that people will vote the way they want to vote, not guided by the polls. Now, polls, I've said this before, I'll say it again. Polls in a three-way race no matter how much you and your colleagues write about them, polls in a three-way race are terribly unpredictable. And secondly, the state of Maine, at least according to Nate Silver, is the toughest state to poll in America. So, do I think the polls are going to determine who's going to win this election? No, I don't. I think that voters are. And I want voters to have the choices that I'm going to have.
Eliot, are you worried at all about your message today confusing some of your supporters or confusing people who might be on the fence?
Not at all. Not at all, Eric. No. I mean, I've tried to make this statement as clear as I can. It says I am not standing down. It says people should vote what their conscience and their fears compel them to do. And I couldn't be clearer, I don't think.
Do you change anything moving forward? Do you continue advertising? Do you continue campaigning
We're
hard?
advertising. We're up on television through the end of the campaign with what I think is a very good and positive ad.
Eliot, you said a lot of people have been asking about this. I have to sit on the floor, I know. You said a lot of people have been asking, what was the moment when you realized you had to come out and make this statement today? Was there a turning point? Was it this morning? Was it yesterday?
Turning point? I hadn't even thought about that. I mean, I think that there comes a point in a campaign when enough people have been either making allegations, asking questions, or suggesting what you should do, that it comes time to answer them. So I've done that. Nothing unusual about it. No turning point. No epiphany. No, I think this is what I ought to do. I think voters deserve to know that I think, as I've always thought, that they're free to vote their consciences, that they should, that I'm not standing down, that I hope their consciences will compel them to vote for me, and if their fears compel them to vote for someone else, I can't stop them, and I wouldn't suggest that I could stop them.
And I know that just from seeing something that Eric tweeted this morning, somebody at Bath Iron Works yelled out the car window, "Get out of the race." I mean, what do you say to those voters? What do you say to folks who say, by you staying in, not officially, Well,
I don't know what Eric tweeted this morning, but I'll tell you this. There were about 8 union guys, including past president of the local, standing there with me, handing out our literature. And the number of voters who said, "I've already voted for you," or "I'm going to vote for you," or "You're the guy," was just like 2010. I mean, it was remarkably like 2010. I'm not going to draw conclusions from that, but I was there 4 years ago, almost exactly on this day, and it was terrific this morning. It was terrific the other morning at the Fraser Mill in Madawaska at the playing game, and it's been everywhere I've gone. Do people say things like that to me? Sure. Someone posted a sign in front of my driveway this morning, or the other morning, a big wooden sign that just says, "Please, ... I've been getting anonymous letters at home, emails. And I'll tell you this, it's, that kind of behavior, frankly, I don't think has any place in a democracy. I don't like it. But is it going to compel me to do one thing or another? Not a chance.
Eliot, in a few minutes, some people who are noteworthy supporters of yours are going to hold a press conference announcing Bobby Monk's, Jim Schaefer.
Let me say something about Bobby Monk's first. Okay, of that group, and I've seen the group.
Right.
Jim Schaefer was a supporter. Period. Bobby Monk's was the treasurer of our 2010 campaign until he turned tail and ran in the middle of the campaign. No one else on that list, unless you have an amended list, was a supporter in 2014, and most of them weren't in 2010.
So what do you say to Jim Schaefer? Did he reach out to you before deciding to do this?
No.
What's your reaction to his decision to go public?
He's a free person. He's a free man. He has a free choice. Am I disappointed in him? No. I mean, look, he's a voter. You're a voter, Bill. You're also a writer. I don't stay awake at night wondering what you're going to write, or stay awake at night regretting what you wrote. And Jim Schaefer is a free man. We have had scores of Jim Schaefer's coming to this campaign, since the debates in particular, switching their allegiances to me from either LePage or Michaud. This is a fluid electorate. I'm not going to worry about Jim Schaefer. I thank him for his support, grateful for it. He can move on, and so will I.
Elliot, can you...
We also have a, excuse me, Steve, 1 second. We also have a document which we will be prepared to hand out with photocopying now on these people and showing that they didn't support us.
There's been a number of early voters, and presumably a lot of those people have voted for you. I don't even know how to describe what this is today, honestly. So maybe you can do that for me. And also, what do you say to those folks that have early voted? And I've certainly talked to some people that intended to cast an absentee ballot for you.
And did.
But may wish they hadn't now.
You know, I've never believed, first of all, in convenience voting, Steve. I think you know that.
Yeah.
I have said over and over and over and over again that I think that absentee voting for people who are away or who are too ill or infirm to go to the polls is important and makes sense. But I happen to think that the act of voting on election day, standing in line at the polls and waiting your turn with your fellow citizens is an important reaffirmation of our democracy. I believe that. And I also think that that voters get educated over the course of a campaign, or informed, I should say, over the course of a campaign. And I think that's good. So I don't think voting 4, 3, 6 weeks ahead of the election day is necessarily a good thing for the democracy. Now, what I've said today is, say it one more time, people who feel compelled by their fears or by their consciences to vote for someone other than me and who have supported me to date should do so. And people who feel compelled by their conscience, probably not by their fears, to vote for me should do so, and I'm not standing down. And I think that the choice that I represent and have represented in this campaign from the beginning is an important choice for Maine voters. Certainly an important choice for me, and I wouldn't deny the Maine voters a choice that I would want to have for myself. I don't know any other way to say it. The fact that you're all here today probably suggests that somebody told you that I was going to quit the race. We never said that, and if you feel you're here on false pretenses, I'm sorry. It's not ours.
No, I'm just trying to find a way to characterize it.
No, I understand. Look, you're the guy who writes. I don't write your stories. I wish I did,
well,
but I don't.
I would like some guidance on this.
Well, I've just told you. I mean, I'm in this race, staying in this race.
Yeah.
I don't want voters to think that that I have a hold on them. I don't. I've never thought that any candidate ever had a hold on any voter. I detest the notion of releasing your voters, okay, number one. I think that's anti-democratic. I don't release anybody. It's oxymoronic, number one. Number two, I obviously feel that the choice that I'm offering voters in this race, in particular, is an important one. And I don't know if I can say any more that would help you write your story.
So what you're saying is your supporter. You're telling this to your supporters, people who are currently supporting you right now.
And I'd love to have the support of the people who have been coming to us since the debate and saying we're switching, trading in lawn signs. You know, it's going both ways. And if more people decide to be for me in the next 6 days, hallelujah, terrific. I'm all for it.
So Elliot, what you're saying then
Elliot,
is that the poll...
should you lose, you go down in history to some people as the guy who gave us 8 years of Paul LePage.
Paul, you know, for some people, I'm going to go down in history in God knows how many different ways.
But are you okay with that moniker?
I can't control it. I cannot and don't want to control it. I am doing what my conscience and my judgment tells me is the best thing to do for the state of Maine.
You could control it, Elliot.
Elliot, you're saying that you don't think you have the support right now to win but it could happen between now and
Happened
Tuesday.
before.
What would be the catalyst, in your view, that would swing 20-plus points your way?
Fabulous column by Bill.
Okay. All right, and then we have Chris Cousins, and then we're done.
Elliot, you brought up 2010 a minute ago. Obviously, people have been talking about 2010 throughout this campaign, and I'm wondering what your thoughts are on Mike Michaux's support throughout this campaign and the fact that it's been 35 or up in the polls. Do you think that's because people are looking back to 2010, or is there something different about Mike Michaud than it was about Libby Mitchell?
I think that the amount of money that has been spent to sustain Mike Michaud's candidacy is overwhelming. And I think that it has bought him a considerable amount of support and loyalty that I would suggest and have suggested his record belies.
Thank you.
Okay? Thanks, everybody.